Stop for a second. Look around you. Look at your life. Not what you post on social media. Not what you pretend to have achieved, but what you're truly living, feeling, and building when no one's watching. Now, be brutally honest with yourself. Is this the life you dreamed of? Or is it just the reflection of an invisible script you've learned to follow without questioning? What you need to understand now is that you weren't born to settle for scraps, repetition, or the mediocrity they taught you to accept as normal. You were programmed to win. The problem is, no one ever told you that. Or, worse, they told you, but laughed right after. From the start, you were conditioned to live from the outside in. They told you that what matters is what others think, what others have, what the outside world allows. You were trained to respond to life like a broken mirror. You only react. You never create. You never decide. You never question. And that's how mediocrity begins. Silent, elegant, polished with phrases like, "I'm just being realistic. It's better not to expect too much. Not everyone can make it." Pretty words to justify fear. But you weren't born for that. You were born with a set of mental tools no other living being on this planet possesses: reason, imagination, perception, intuition, memory, and will. Tools that, when used correctly, tear down any wall separating your desire from your reality. But if you don't learn to use them, someone else will use them for you. Society will, the media will, the old paradigm that keeps you trapped will. And then you live like the majority, feeling like you're running on a treadmill, exhausted but going nowhere. And the most tragic part is that you call this life, but that's not living. That's surviving with open eyes and a closed mind. Truly thinking is the most underrated act in the modern world. Everyone says they think, but if we observed what most people say and do, we'd realize they're just repeating inherited patterns. Thinking isn't remembering what others said. Thinking is creating. Thinking is imagining a path that doesn't yet exist. That's where the power lies. That's why Bob Proctor always said, you become what you think about most of the time. And if you've been thinking about scarcity, fear, doubt, and failure, then guess what you're creating? Your mind is the garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. There's no point complaining about weeds if all you plant is doubt and limitation. And here's the truth. Most people avoid facing fear. Isn't the problem. It's the symptom. The real problem is ignorance, not knowing how your mind works, not understanding where your feelings come from, not studying how to change your programming. Fear starts with doubt and worry. It enters your conscious mind. Like a whisper, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail again? You believe that thought, and it seeps into your emotional mind, creating a negative vibration. That turns into anxiety. You suppress that anxiety, and it turns into depression. Depression turns into illness. Illness turns into decay. And you still call it bad luck. It's not bad luck. It's programming that was never questioned. Now look, if ignorance creates doubt, and doubt turns into fear, what's the opposite? Knowledge, understanding, clarity. And you only get there one way, by studying. But not studying math, or history, studying yourself. Studying how your mind works. Studying the universal principles that govern everything. Understanding that the universe operates by laws, fixed laws, like polarity, cause and effect, vibration, and the most powerful of all, the law of substitution. You don't eliminate negative thoughts by fighting them. You replace them with something higher. Doubt dissolves in the presence of knowledge, like darkness in the face of light. And this is where reprogramming begins. When you consciously decide what to think, what to feel, what to visualize. When you choose what enters and exits your mind like a relentless gatekeeper. And yes, this requires discipline. It requires vigilance. It requires you to become the architect of your own reality. And stop living like a tenant in a mental system you didn't even build. Bob Proctor said, "You were born rich," and he wasn't talking about money. He was talking about potential, about mind, about spirit. You were born with everything you need to build an extraordinary life, but if you don't activate that potential, it rots inside you. You can keep reacting to the news, to collective fear, to others' opinions. Or, you can start using your imagination for something far more powerful. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong? Start asking, what if everything goes right? Instead of thinking, what will people think? Think, what will I become? Most people survive, waiting for the world to get better. Those who awaken, build a new world from their minds. And that's exactly what you need to do now. Take control of your inner world to transform your outer world. You have a mind. Don't be dominated by it. Master it. And you'll start to notice something subtle, yet transformative. Everything you need was already there. The talent, the strength, the vision, the courage, none of it needs to be invented. It just needs to be unleashed. And that starts when you stop identifying with the version of yourself shaped by fear, criticism, failure, and scarcity, and start building the mental image of the version you want to live. Because, in the end, you don't live what you want to. Live what you believe to be true about yourself. You live what you believe to be true about yourself. And that truth isn't a universal lit, a mental program, a paradigm. Bob Proctor used to say that a paradigm is a set of deeply rooted habits and beliefs in the subconscious that control virtually everything. Your perception, your results, your feelings, your routine, your level of prosperity. You can have lofty dreams, brilliant goals, expensive courses, powerful books. But if your paradigm is limited, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle. You start excited, you stall, you return to square one. The world calls this self-sabotage. Bob called it subconscious programming, and he said it can be rewritten, but pay attention. You don't change paradigms with willpower. You don't break them with logic. Because they don't live at the logical level. They reside in the subconscious, the most powerful part of your mind, and you only access that part through constant repetition and emotionally charged images. That's why most people fail. They try to change behavior without changing identity. They try to make money without seeing themselves as prosperous. They try to achieve success without seeing themselves as a winner. And that's impossible. Because your subconscious mind will always manifest what aligns with your self-image. If you see yourself as small, undervalued, inadequate, incapable, that's what the world will mirror back. And no matter how much you strive, study, or fight, your inner image always wins. That's why Bob Proctor said, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's the root of it all. You can surround yourself with gurus, techniques, motivation. But if the same limited self-image, the same old paradigm, still lives inside you, your reality will keep repeating itself, new packaging, same essence. And what changes that? A new mental program, a new internal script, a new pattern of thinking and feeling that is conscious, deliberate, and repeated until it becomes automatic. Because only what's automatic creates consistent results. And here's a critical point: imagination. Bob taught that imagination is one of the most neglected and most powerful higher mental faculties. It's with imagination that you begin to shape the new version of yourself. It's with it that you build the image of your ideal self, the you who has already achieved what seems distant today. Imagine yourself wealthy, healthy, confident, fulfilled, full of energy and purpose. See yourself that way. Feel yourself that way. And then, think, act, and speak as if it were true. This isn't pretending. It's vibrational alignment. Because when you keep that image alive with emotion and clarity, your subconscious mind starts to accept it as real. And from there, everything changes. Your energy, your decisions, your actions, your results. But most people resist this. Because they prefer to trust their five senses. They prefer to see, to believe. Bob said, you need to believe to see. You need to believe before you have evidence. That requires faith. Not religious faith, faith as a mental skill of sustaining an image in the absence of proof. Faith that you're building on the inside what hasn't yet appeared on the outside. And here's the secret. Physical reality is always the final stage of creation. The first stage is mental. Everything starts in the mind. The building, the book, the empire, the dream life, everything was born as an idea sustained with persistence and faith. That's why imagination must be treated with reverence. It's the laboratory where your new reality is being created. And if you're not using your imagination creatively, it will be used against you destructively. Worry is imagination used in reverse. It's imagining the worst. It's visualizing failure, rejection, scarcity, pain, and when you repeat that visualization with emotion, you're creating a new paradigm of failure without even realizing it. The problem was never your capacity, it was how you used it. Bob Proctor was clear: the mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't matter what you plant, it will grow, as long as it's nurtured with repetition and emotion. You can plant success, or failure, prosperity, or misery. The choice is yours. But the mind doesn't argue with you. It accepts what you repeat with faith and feeling. So stop now and reflect. What have you been repeating? What images have you been feeding daily? What have you been identifying with? Because that's shaping your identity, and identity drives behavior, which drives results. If you want to change the fruit, you need to change the roots. That requires awareness. It requires you to stop living on autopilot and start observing your patterns with attention. Because everything in your life today is a reflection of what's inside your mind. Nothing is by chance. Everything is a result. And yes, this might seem harsh, but it's liberating. Because if you created your current reality with unconscious paradigms, then you can create a new one with conscious paradigms. You can reprogram your mind. You can imagine new possibilities. You can break the cycle. Bob Proctor taught this for over 50 years. He himself transformed his life by studying this truth. He was a broke man, uneducated, mopping floors at companies, until someone introduced him to the power of the mind. He started studying, applying, imagining, reprogramming, and he became one of the greatest prosperity mentors in modern history. If he could do it, so can you. But you need to decide. You need to break free from the victim narrative. You need to stop saying it's hard, it's too late, it's impossible. Because all of that is the old paradigm trying to survive. And you need to let it die, because the only way to be reborn is to kill the old version of you. The limited, fearful, conditioned version. The version that lives from the outside in. The version that bows to circumstances. That version needs to die so the true greatness within you can emerge. You were programmed to win. But that programming needs to be activated. And it only awakens when you live in harmony with the universal laws. Bob Proctor said with conviction, most people live in conflict with the laws of life. And that's why they fail, not because they're incapable, but because they're out of alignment. The law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. These are all expressions of how reality works, whether you believe in them or not. And if you don't learn to operate according to these laws, you'll be operated by them, unconsciously suffering the effects without understanding the causes. Let's start with the law of vibration, which Bob considered one of the most neglected, and, at the same time, most powerful. Everything in the universe is in constant vibration. This includes your thoughts, your feelings, your words, and, above all, your mental image. When you vibrate scarcity, you attract more scarcity. When you vibrate fear, doubt, or guilt, you resonate with situations that feed those exact states. But when you vibrate faith, gratitude, purpose, certainty, you begin to align with the opportunities, people, and ideas that reflect that frequency. It's not magic, it's the science of the mind. The mind is the transmitter and receiver of vibration, and the body is the instrument that executes that vibration in the physical plane. Bob taught that to change your vibration, you need to change. Your feeling, and feeling is the marriage of thought and emotion. It's not enough to just think positively, you need to feel as if it's already real. The key isn't to say, one day I'll be prosperous, but to feel now how a prosperous person feels. This takes practice, because the old programming will resist. It will try to pull you back to what's familiar. It will tell you you're deluding yourself, but that's the voice of the paradigm, and you need to silence it with awareness. With discipline, with daily practice, every day you sustain a new vibration, you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. You're creating new neural pathways, and that changes your perception, which changes your attitude, which changes your results. And here comes the law of attraction. So widely discussed, yet so misunderstood. Bob Proctor always said, "You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are." This means your current vibration determines what you attract. If you want abundance, you need to vibrate abundance. If you want health, you need to see yourself as healthy. If you want love, you need to become loving. It's useless to repeat empty affirmations or visualize for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of the day complaining about life. The law of attraction responds to your dominant vibration, and that's determined by your predominant feeling. And here's one of the greatest secrets Bob revealed. Imagination creates the internal state, and the internal state shapes the external world. When you start living as if what you desire is already reality, you activate the creative power of your being. This isn't arrogance, it's conscious manifestation. And for that, you need to use the higher mental faculties Bob so often taught: perception, reason, imagination, memory, intuition, and will. These internal tools set you apart from any other form of life on Earth. But if you don't use them, they rust. Most people live imprisoned by their 5 senses, only believing in what they see, hear, or touch. This limits creation, because what the senses perceive is the past, what has already been created. But the mental faculties allow you to create the new. They access the invisible reality, the world of infinite possibilities. And that's where everything originates. Start training your perception. See opportunities where you once saw problems. Use reason to question old beliefs. Deepen your imagination to visualize an extraordinary life. Use memory not to relive traumas, but to recall victories. Sharpen your intuition by listening to your inner voice. And above all, exercise your willpower to stay focused on what you want, even when everything around you seems to contradict. Will is the muscle of persistence. Bob said, will keeps you in the frequency, even when the world tries to pull you out of it. And that's how you reprogram your mind, maintaining the new vibration even in the face of the old reality. That's true faith. That's true inner mastery. You're not here to survive. You're here to expand, to grow, to evolve consciously. The entire universe is expanding, and you're part of that. When you resist growth, you suffer. When you flow with it, you prosper. Bob Proctor said that pain comes from contraction, fear, stagnation. Joy comes from creation, expression, realization. So choose to create, choose to grow, choose to take responsibility for your mind and your results. Because when you do, you activate true freedom. The freedom to be, do, and have what you want, starting from within. And if doubt arises, remember one of Bob's most powerful sayings: doubt and worry block the flow of abundance. Understanding sets it free. The more you understand the laws that govern your mind and reality, the less you doubt and the more you manifest. Knowledge eliminates ignorance, and ignorance is the root of fear. It all starts with the decision to study, apply, and transform, not randomly, but consciously, intentionally, daily. Because only those who decide to reprogram their mind now break free from the cycle of mediocrity and start living as they were designed to live, with purpose, with clarity, with creative power. You cannot transcend the life you have as long as you remain a prisoner of the self-image you've built. Bob Proctor was adamant when he said, self-image is the starting point for all lasting change. This means that no matter how much you study, strive, or desire improvement, if deep down you still see yourself as limited, inadequate, or small, nothing will change in a lasting way. Because the subconscious, where this image is stored, is infinitely more powerful than any conscious intention. And it's the subconscious that governs your habits, your reactions, your automatic decisions. Therefore, if you want to change your life, you must first change how you see yourself. Most people carry a distorted self-image shaped by years of external conditioning. Parents who said they'd never amount to anything. Teachers who only pointed out mistakes. Traumatic experiences that bred insecurity. Social comparisons that reinforced feelings of inferiority. All of this was absorbed by the subconscious, repeated countless times until it became identity. And then, even with talent, effort, or opportunities, that person sabotages everything because their internal image is incompatible with success. Bob taught that success is an expression of self-image. It's not created from the outside in, but from the inside out. And this truth changes everything. That reprogramming the mind is, above all, rewriting your identity. It's not just about changing what you do, it's about changing who you believe you are. Because when you believe you're prosperous, you act prosperously. When you believe you're disciplined, you make firm decisions. When you believe you're worthy, you don't settle for crumbs. And this new identity only takes hold when you start feeding your subconscious with new images, new words, new emotions. Bob called this the process of conscious repetition. And while it's simple, it requires consistency. It's every day upon waking, before sleeping, in pauses, in moments of doubt, affirming with intensity, I am capable. I am abundant. I am the creator of my reality. Not as an empty phrase, but as a declaration of truth, and more. This reprogramming requires creative visualization. Bob Proctor learned this from the masters who influenced him, like Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale, and he himself repeated, you must see yourself in the role you want to occupy. This means, close your eyes and see your new life as if it already exists. Feel what you would feel. Imagine the details, the place, the people, the sounds, and replay this mental scene like an internal movie until it becomes more familiar than your current reality. The brain doesn't distinguish between the real and the imagined when the emotion is intense. This activates new neural connections. This reprograms your reticular activating system, that invisible filter that determines what you notice in the world. And this, over time, changes your vibration and, consequently, your results. But beware, this process isn't linear. There will be resistance. The old paradigm will scream. It will try to pull you back to the familiar. You'll hear that voice saying, you're not that, you can't do it, this isn't for you. And it's in that moment that you need to be stronger than your story, stronger than doubt, stronger than fear. Bob said that the paradigm is like a thermostat. If you try to raise the level, it tries to pull you back to the old standard. That's why you need to act with awareness every day to raise your frequency, change your habits, expand your identity. That's how the new reality sustains itself, through repetition and inspired action. Mental reprogramming also requires you to take care of your mental and physical environment. What you hear, read, watch, and who you surround yourself with directly influences your vibration. If you consume negativity, live in toxic environments, and surround yourself with people who reinforce your limitations, your new identity won't hold. Bob Proctor was firm on this. Environment is stronger than willpower. So, create an ecosystem of growth. Surround yourself with voices that uplift you. Feed your mind with content that strengthens your vision. Organize your spaces to reflect order, clarity, focus. Small actions have a big impact on the subconscious mind. And here's a master key taught by Bob. Write your new self every day. Take a notebook. Write in the present tense, as if it's already real. I am a being of purpose. I create with clarity. I have discipline. I live in harmony with abundance. Repeat, rewrite, refeel. This daily ritual is a signal to the universe and to your mind that you're committed, you're creating, you're taking charge of your life. You're no longer a spectator. You're the protagonist, and this simple habit changes your frequency. And when your frequency changes, everything changes. The mind is plastic, adaptable, moldable. And the more you work on it, the more it becomes your ally. Bob Proctor was living proof of this. He wasn't born rich. He wasn't born educated. He went from debt and total ignorance to becoming one of the greatest personal development masters in the world. And it all started with a decision to change his mind, to feed it with new thoughts, to control his attention. He said, you have the power to change your life by changing your mind, but you must take that power with responsibility And now, in this moment, that responsibility is in your hands. Knowing something doesn't mean living it. And this is where many people get lost on the path to change. Bob Proctor used to say that the world is full of intelligent people who are empty of results. They know everything about motivation, read books, watch lectures, follow gurus on social media, but they remain stuck, frustrated, stagnant. Why? Because knowledge is not power. Knowledge applied with understanding becomes power. And the only way to turn knowledge into understanding is through repetition, deep reflection, and constant action. Only then does it translate into real change. The conscious mind is where we absorb new ideas, but the subconscious mind is where those ideas need to take root to create transformation. The problem is that between these two minds, there's a gatekeeper called the paradigm, set of ingrained beliefs, inherited and repeated over years, that operates like an automatic program. Bob stated that the paradigm is the operating system of your life. It controls how you think, feel, act, and react. And if you don't change this system, you'll keep repeating the same cycle, even with new information. It's like installing new software on a virus-infected computer. Nothing truly changes. The paradigm is invisible, but its effects are visible. It manifests in your habits, your financial results, your health, your relationships, your level of self-confidence. You may desire more money, but if your paradigm believes wealth is dangerous, you'll push it away without realizing it. You may want a healthy body, but if the paradigm says you're lazy, you'll sabotage every attempt at change. And this internal conflict creates frustration, low self-esteem, and, often, giving up. That's why Bob hammered home this truth: if you want to change your life, change the paradigm. And to change the paradigm, you need repetition and emotion. This is the point where many people give up. They think reading a book is enough, that watching a video is sufficient, that saying an affirmation once or twice will reprogram years of mental conditioning, but it won't. The mind needs to be bombarded with a new frequency until it starts accepting that idea as true. That's why Bob recommended, choose a powerful idea like, I am abundant, I am a leader, I am disciplined, and repeat it every day, multiple times a day, with emotion and conviction. Not like a parrot, but like someone carving a new identity within themselves. And more, associate this new idea with concrete actions. Mental reprogramming isn't just about thinking differently, it's about acting differently. If you want to see yourself as a disciplined person, act like one, even when you don't feel like it. If you want to be seen as someone of value, start behaving like someone of value. Every small action aligned with the new identity strengthens the new paradigm. It's like building a bridge between who you were and who you've decided to be. And yes, at first, it's uncomfortable. It's strange. It's like wearing new shoes that haven't yet molded to your feet. But with time, it becomes part of you. Bob Proctor insisted that the secret to change lay in spaced repetition, focused concentration, and emotional persistence. He said, you have to be willing to study yourself every day. This means observing your thoughts, questioning your reactions, writing down your insights, reviewing your goals, reaffirming your vision. It's a constant process of conscious self-observation, because the old patterns won't disappear without a fight. They'll try to convince you that nothing has changed. They'll use time, doubt, others' criticism, and even fatigue as tools of sabotage. But if you persist, you'll overcome them. And in this process, one of Bob's greatest insights emerges. Understanding eliminates doubt. The more you understand how your mind works, the clearer you become about your blocks. And that clarity is liberating. It dissolves fear because you now understand that fear is just a mental construct. It eliminates anxiety because you learn to live in the present, aware of your creative power. It transforms doubt into faith because you know you're in control. And that, in itself, changes your vibration. It pulls you out of the cycle of mediocrity and sets you on the path to fulfillment. This understanding isn't merely intellectualized visceral. It's a knowing that you feel in your body, recognize in your soul, and that resonates in every cell. And it comes, above all, from the decision to study yourself with seriousness and consistency. Bob Proctor said that the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. And this investment isn't just in money, it's in time, energy, focus. Because the more you understand your own mind, the more you understand the universe. And when you understand the universe, you realize that everything is frequency. Everything is vibration. Everything is a reflection. And in that exact moment, everything can begin to change. Imagine waking up every morning and, before even opening your eyes, remembering who you truly are. Not a tired body, not a being limited by bills, deadlines, or others' expectations, but a living extension of infinite intelligence. A direct channel of the Creator, with the power to shape reality. This is how the routine of someone who has decided to reprogram their mind begins. Not with haste, not with distraction, but with reverence. Because you are rewriting the code of your existence, and that requires presence, intention, and discipline. Bob Proctor taught that the first hour of the day shapes the rest of your frequency. That's why you shouldn't start your day with your phone, news, or social media. What enters your mind right after waking anchors your vibrational state. Instead, dedicate the first few minutes to reaffirming your identity. Say out loud, "I am a creator. I am abundance in motion. Today, I vibrate at the frequency of fulfillment." Close your eyes, feel each word. Imagine yourself living as that identity. This isn't an empty ritual, it's neuroprogramming. It's you hacking your subconscious with emotion-laden images. Next, engage in what Bob called conscious study. Choose one book, not 10, not 20, one, and dive into it every day. Reading the same chapter for weeks until it penetrates your nervous system. Bob read the same book for decades. He said, "You don't read to learn something new. You read to remember who you are." Books like You Were Born Rich or Think and Grow Rich aren't for entertainment, they're tools for transformation. Replace mindless consumption with focused study. A single paragraph deeply understood can be worth more than 1,000 pages skimmed superficially. Then, dedicate a few minutes to visualization. See with your mind's eye the life you want to create. Feel yourself already living what is still being manifested. Visualize with rich detail your ideal routine, healthy relationships, financial freedom, your authentic expression in the world. Visualization isn't dreaming, it's mentally rehearsing the inevitable. Bob said, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. The brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality. The more you visualize, the more you activate the corresponding neural circuits. And with that, your vibration changes. Your energy field aligns with your new identity. Now, it's time to reinforce this with powerful affirmations. But remember, affirmation isn't empty repetition, it's a declaration with faith. It's a proclamation of your new truth. Use phrases like, "I am the master of my mind. Everything I need is within me. My mind is a factory of prosperous ideas. I am disciplined, focused, and unstoppable." Repeat each phrase while looking into your own eyes in the mirror, with conviction and emotion. Feel each word piercing through the layers of the old paradigm and planting new seeds of power. Mental reprogramming also requires coherent action. It's no use thinking like a millionaire while acting like someone afraid to spend a single penny. It's no use visualizing freedom while remaining trapped in sabotaging habits. The mind transforms when you live what you affirm. Do something every day that brings you closer to your vision. It could be a courageous decision, a step outside your comfort zone, a necessary conversation, a project started. Each action is a brick in the construction of your new identity. And over time, that identity ceases to be just an idea, becomes your lived reality. And finally, at the end of the day, Bob taught directed gratitude. Before going to bed, give thanks not only for what you already have, but for what is on its way. Give thanks, as if you've already received it. This isn't delusion, it's faith in action. Gratitude tunes your mind to the frequency of abundance. And when you sleep in that state, your subconscious absorbs that vibration and works through the night to manifest it. Waking up and going to sleep with gratitude is like putting your soul in a state of continuous expansion. You stop reacting to life and start commanding it. This simple yet powerful routine identity, study, visualization, affirmations, action, and gratitude forms the foundation of a reprogrammed mind. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency, about remembering every day the power you carry within you. And the more you align with that truth, the more life responds. Doors open, ideas emerge, the right people appear, synchronicities multiply. Because the mind, now aligned with the creative source, becomes irresistibly magnetic. You can repeat affirmations every day, visualize, study, give thanks. But if you don't learn to overcome the inner voice that pulls you back, the old self will always find a way to reclaim control. It's like a program running in the background. Silent, but active. It says, "You're not good enough. This isn't for you. You always fail in the end." That's the inherited subconscious programming, formed in childhood, solidified over a lifetime. And until you break that cycle, you'll keep sabotaging your greatest opportunities, even unconsciously. Bob Proctor said that the paradigm is like a mental thermostat. Even if you experience a spike of success, if your programming is set to a lower vibration, you'll inevitably return to it. It's like an invisible elastic band pulling you back. That's why reprogramming your mind isn't just an internal revolution. It's about resetting your inner thermostat to the level you want to live at. This requires continuous awareness. You need to observe yourself like never before. Identify your sabotaging patterns, confront your automatic thoughts, and, most importantly, act even when they scream otherwise. And here's the hard truth. You will feel fear. You will feel doubt. You will want to give up, because every time you try to break free from the old self, it resists. It tries to survive. To your subconscious mind, the new is dangerous, even if it's better. And here's the key: disciplined action, despite the emotion. Bob taught that discipline isn't punishment, it's liberation. It's when you do what needs to be done, not because you're motivated, but because you're committed to who you're becoming. When you act, despite fear, it loses its power. When you move forward, even while trembling, you rewire your paradigm. Another factor that sabotages thousands of people is their environment. Friends who mock your dreams, family who repeat, "This isn't for you," media that feeds fear and conformity. All of this creates a kind of vibrational field that influences your mind. And if you don't protect yourself energetically, you'll be contaminated without realizing it. That's why surrounding yourself with positive stimuli, uplifting content, and high-vibrating people isn't a luxury, it's a mental survival strategy. Create your own fertile environment. Filter what you consume. Feed yourself daily with elevated ideas. Because what you consume shapes what you become. Now listen closely. You are not your current results. You are the mental image you hold of yourself. And if that image doesn't change, your results will always be the same, even if you change jobs, cities, or partners. Real change starts from the inside out. Bob Proctor called this self-image, and he said, "You will never consistently achieve more than you believe you deserve. This means your external world will never surpass your internal vision." That's why you need to elevate your self-image daily. Visualize yourself acting, speaking, deciding as the person who has already achieved what you desire. And more than that, behave like that version. Even if you don't yet see anything concrete, you don't need external proof to start living as someone who has already succeeded. The mind doesn't understand time the way the body does. The brain responds to frequency. Energy precedes matter. The more you act as if you've already won in thoughts, emotions, and actions, the faster the universe responds. Bob said, "Faith is seeing with the eyes of the mind, and that vision must be cultivated until it becomes more real than any doubt." You need to be loyal to your vision, not your situation. And when you stumble, because you will stumble, remember this. There is no failure, only feedback. Every misstep is a lesson. Every mistake is a course correction. What keeps you stuck isn't the error, it's the judgment you place on it. Forgive yourself. Learn, adjust, but never stop. Bob Proctor repeated tirelessly, decide, and don't. Change your mind, because the universe responds to firm decisions, not to hesitation, not to doubt. When you decide, the invisible world begins to move, circumstances rearrange, doors open, but it all starts with you confronting yourself. Remember, this, the greatest act of courage, is refusing to live on autopilot. It's waking up every day and saying, "Today, I am the creator of my reality." Even if yesterday was tough, even if the world says otherwise, even if the old identity tries to drag you back. Because when you insist on rising, when you act despite doubt, when you plant new ideas in your mind, even with tears in your eyes, in that moment, the entire universe bows to your determination. So now, look at yourself. Not what others say you are. Not what your failures suggest. Not what the numbers or circumstances show. But look at yourself with the eyes of the mind, as Bob Proctor always taught. See beyond what's visible. See the powerful, creative, limitless, spiritual, eternal being living a physical experience with a clear mission to evolve, expand, prosper, serve, and express your fullness. You're not here to survive, you were programmed to win. This isn't a catchy phrase, it's a spiritual law, a science of the mind, a universal foundation. You have within you a potential that has never been fully activated, and it only needs one thing, a conscious decision. Because right now, there are two versions of you competing within. One wants to stay in the familiar cycle, even if it's painful, because it's known. That version craves safety, routine, sameness. The other is screaming for freedom, for expansion, for a new level of consciousness. It wants you to embrace who you truly are. And you must choose which one to feed. Every thought, every emotion, every action either strengthens your lower self or empowers your higher self. And that choice is yours every day, every moment. And here's the secret, Bob Proctor repeated until his final day. You already are everything you desire to be. You just need to remember. It's not about becoming something, it's about freeing what already exists within you. All the abundance, love, health, power, creativity, it's already there. Buried under years of beliefs, fears, paradigms, and conditioning. But it's still there, alive, pulsing, waiting. And now, in this very moment, you can begin the process of total awakening. It starts with the firm decision to never again accept a life smaller than the one you were created for. You were made in the image and likeness of infinite intelligence. Your spirit is part of the creative source. You are a channel of expression for the universal mind. And as Bob said, you were born rich. Rich in ideas, resources, inner strength, vision, purpose, wisdom. And it's your moral and spiritual duty to express that richness, not to impress, but to serve. Because the world needs your light. It needs your courage. It needs your transformation. Every person who breaks free from their old self paves the way for others to do the same. You become a living example, proof of what's possible. So now, make a pact with yourself, a sacred pact. Say, I refuse to live in the cycle of mediocrity. I rewrite my mind. I elevate my vibration. I embrace my greatness. Today, I decide to win. And no matter what happens after that, you don't retreat. You don't turn back, because now you know who you are. And those who know who they are never get lost again. Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself living at your peak. Imagine waking up every day with purpose, energy, and gratitude. Imagine yourself creating, leading, inspiring, prospering. Imagine yourself free, because that is already available. And it starts now, with a decision, an action, an elevated thought. You don't need permission. You just need to remember, you are programmed to win.